Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
And welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid. I am Gonzo. With me is OJ. OJ, this is episode 26 of season 1, and the White Sox have been officially eliminated from playoff contention. They haven't been really in contention since May, but there's still 2.5 weeks of baseball left of this regular season. OJ, what's your thoughts?
Well, let's be honest. Let's keep it real. They haven't been in contention since spring training. Right off the gate, they sucked. And they had Pedro Gridol get pushed by now no longer a White Sox member, Giolito. That was like the highlight of their year. That one first game that they won, I believe, was in Kansas City. Wherever it was that he won it, they sucked. They sucked the whole year. They were in contention. They might have been out of contention than Grifol's hiring.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask you last episode because we kind of jumped right to the all-time series for catcher, but with 2.5 weeks to go, we've seen a lot of the same from this staff with Pedro throughout the season. But with 2 weeks left, is there really anything that you want to see him kind of try to show himself as a coach with 2.5 weeks to go? Because for me, myself, I want something, at least start small, like start believing in one of your guys in your staff, like a guy like Dylan Cease. I mean, I know they're trying to watch him as he has got 2 starts left, but like last start and tonight and in today's start, the last 2 starts he's had, he's gotten to 5 and 5 1/3, and he got taken out with still some pitches left in him, and he's pitching well in these couple starts here. And I've been harping on it for the past couple months. I want to see Grifol start to really, have some trust and faith in the guys and push them a little bit harder. And that includes a guy like Dylan Cease.
Maybe they're telling Pedro what moves to make. Maybe they're telling Pedro's going by the little book and taking out guys based on pitch counts. We're gonna see what type of manager Pedro is. Moves have been made. He's been inconsistent. His bullpen management has been horrendous. His handling of the starters, I've seen zero growth from any of the starters on the maturity level of them handling it. And we've seen him be timid at times with C. So in these next 2 weeks, I think that if Pedro was bad, his staff is 10 times worse. If I was Chris Getz, I would reconsider bringing that staff back next year. Even if I bring back Pedro, I would reconsider the staff as a whole. Because if the players have underperformed, they performed. Their job has not been completed. Their job has been a complete failure because they were brought into this team to actually win a division, and they're not just not going to win it. They're far from it.
Yeah, I like where you're going because I know we brought up when the announcement was official. I think it was you, OJ. You alluded to they're not done getting rid of people, and I want to believe that as a fan because I haven't seen anything to go against keeping this whole staff. To go with what you're saying, with you got to make change because we keep saying the same thing. I don't see really many adjustments among the players that the staff should be focused on. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's stay on Grifol, and we haven't done a Grifol's grounds in a while, so let's bring it back. This is Griffol's grounds.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
All right, first topic in tonight. Gosh, this was over the weekend, or no, I think it was Friday or Thursday or Friday of last week. They moved Michael Kopech to the bullpen for the rest of the season, and then I think his first appearance in Detroit on the road, he gives up a solo shot. But Pedro alludes that the official decision hasn't been determined for 2024, but they'd like to keep him a starter. OJ, let's hear it about your thoughts on Kopech here.
Well, I'm going to say this about Pedro Gridol. Either Pedro Gridol has no idea what the hell he's doing as a manager, or he's completely full of it. Okay? A couple weeks ago, he says that Michael Kopech is no way, shape, or form going to the bullpen. And guess where Michael Kopech is at now? He's in the bullpen. Okay? He says that Michael Kopech will not be in the bullpen in 2024, but he's in the bullpen today. What is Michael Kopech going to learn from the bullpen to becoming a starter? Michael Kopech has thrown this season 126 innings, nowhere close to 200 innings that are usually a number. His ERA is over 5.19. Okay, it will end up in almost 20 something starts. What's the big deal if Michael Kopech is a great reliever? Ronaldo Lopez was not a starter. Mariano Rivera, guess what he was before? A starter. Starting pitching is not something that you just have to have just a great arm for. There's stamina, there's pitchability, there's a mental aspect to it. The last time that I saw Michael Kopech pitching live, because it wasn't over the weekend because I was in Cabo San Lucas, which we talked a lot about the White Sox, a lot of guys from Chicago during our trip over there. But Michael Kopech, the last time I saw him live, his fastball was literally 2 to 3 miles per hour slower in the first inning, not because of injury, but because it looked like he was trying to save something for later innings, thinking, I have to pitch more than 2 innings. I need to keep my energy. And when a pitcher starts doing that, it means that he is not a starting pitcher. People like Ozzie Guillen, other fans have been saying that he might not be a starting pitcher. Sometimes you're wrong. Chris Sale, who we thought was a starting pitcher, who wasn't a starting pitcher, and he proved everybody wrong. But what's the big issue with Michael Kopech being a bullpen piece, of being a future closer, of being a 2-inning reliever, a modern-day relief pitcher? What is so bad about that? I'd rather see him succeed in that role than keep struggling and people trying to save their jobs and other people brown-nosing, people trying to save their jobs, trying to keep this kid in the starting position. And he might not be a starter, and that's okay.
So you haven't developed him as a starter under this staff. So if Getz is trying to come out here and tell us that we're going to be pushing to contend in 2024, then he needs to be in the bullpen, because that's where so far in his tenure here in Chicago, he's had a better role as a pitcher in the bullpen than in the rotation, obviously. So if I understand that we only have one guy under contract and cease and starting rotation for 2024, not named Kopech, if you're going to move him to the bullpen. And that means that you're going to have to fill those other 4 spots. But that needs to be where the focus has to be right now, because we need to get the best out of these guys, and we have to build some confidence going forward. And I think it was
roster construction.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to it. Just like we had guys playing out of position in Andrew Vaughn, which took him 2 years to end up playing finally his main position. Having Michael Kopech be a starter just for the sake of him being a starter, because you don't have other legit starters, is a detriment to the team and especially to Mr. Michael Kopech. If he is a bullpen guy, if he feels more comfortable that way, let him be a bullpen guy. I really would like to know what Ethan Katz has to say about this, because if Ethan Katz has been saying that he can convert him into a starter, like he has been, and he ends up being in the bullpen in these next 2 years, I am judging Ethan Katz a little bit harder. But again, the White Sox also need bullpen help. So why not have Michael Kopech be one of those arms in the bullpen that can help you? I don't understand why this is such a big deal. If your team was packed with bullpen guys and there would not be a spot for Kopech, but that's not the case. He would still be a huge piece of the team and might even pitch more than every 5 days. I'd rather have him pitch 2 or 3 times a week and be effective than pitch every 5 days and struggle.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's unfortunate that he couldn't develop as a starter here. Like you just said, I wish we would know the true thoughts of Katz, but Junior, I don't even want Katz here anymore. Like,
well, I just think let's not look at analytics. Let's look at his build. Okay, he's a real aggressive, in-your-face type of guy where he looks like he's actually been tamed down a little bit. He was always a power pitcher in his early days, a guy that likes attacking, a guy that is very effective one inning, another inning is not. So he either comes out with it or when he doesn't come out with anything. Usually as a reliever, you hit or miss. With Michael, we have not been able to see that because if he has a really good first inning or second inning, he finds himself in trouble in the third and the fourth. So his physical makeup tells you he's a reliever, and then his stats tell you that he's a reliever. So what are they looking at other than the fact that you're trying to force him into a starter spot? Everything is telling us he is a reliever. So I don't know what they're looking at and saying he's a starter other than the fact that they're saying that he is.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have the innings to even make it a starter.
126. He's not even flirting with it. At least when you saw Cease and other pitchers struggle, you see guys struggling, but with 180, 190 pitches, he's not even close. His numbers are very, very close to a long reliever or a bullpen guy with a lot of appearances. His numbers are not starting pitcher numbers, even in modern day baseball.
Well, Junior, going into this season, I understand keeping him in the rotation to see if he would actually pitch longer than he did last year. Like, I totally get that. But now that we've seen it clearly that he burned out a little bit earlier than he did last year, right? This season?
Yeah, 119 last year he threw. Before that, 69, 14. This year's at 126. I think he might finish at like 135 now that he's going to be in the bullpen. So again, not a huge jump to become a starter when you compare that to other pitchers of his age and development.
Yeah, I remember, me, Justin, and Slav going back and forth with McKenzie and Kopech, and it's just unfortunate that 3 months later that McKenzie, he hasn't even seen the mound yet, and Kopech just found himself back into the bullpen. But that's just trading Sale away. You get Mankata, Kopech. You can't get anything out of those top prospects to really flourish at the major league level. And now, hopefully, we see Kopech bounce back next year in the bullpen. I hope the best because he's got the stuff, but
I think he's got great stuff to be a reliever. Like when you look at Dylan Cease, okay, and you see his development, and again, some people argue that he had better stuff. Kopech meaning, when you're looking at the numbers, even when he didn't pitch well early in his career, you see the numbers over the 150 mark for innings consumed. Okay, same thing with every prospect pitcher. I think with Kopech, it's a situation of stamina. A situation that maybe that year that he took off, which was the COVID year, maybe affected him in his development as a starter. Okay, he was given a shot this year. And if you wanted to keep him as a starter, why are you sending him to the bullpen with 2 weeks left in the season? That's the part that I don't get. That's the part where I think Grifol is full of it. Or he is either lying or he has no idea what he's doing. If he is going to be a starter for next season and you're thinking that, then why take him out of the starting rotation with 2 weeks left? Which the only thing that you're trying to save is your embarrassment of losing 100 game as a first-year manager.
So let me go back to the bullpen here. In 2024, starting off the season, where would you put him in that bullpen? Would you put him middle relief?
Might be middle relief. He might be a specialist middle relief 8-9 inning guy.
Yeah.
It might be the 8th or 9th inning, depending. Maybe throw him in the 7th or 8th. Maybe put him in between, the hard spots in the 6th, 7th to get to the older guys. Because he can probably throw you 2 innings.
Yeah, I like to see him at least start 6th, 7th, and then build that confidence to get
Build
closer.
6th, 7th, and then get there. And then again, if he becomes a 2-inning guy, he becomes a 7th, 8th guy, which is like the extended setup guy now, setting it up for the closer. Again, if they're analytical, match him up. What's the best matchup for him coming up, coming into the game? And maybe you can throw him 1 inning, throw him 2 innings, couple days, 2 or 3 days rest, bring him back there. And you can really get great usage out of him because right now, this is the thing. Right now, in his mind, he's a bullpen guy. So to transition him to a bullpen guy, to then go into the offseason, not knowing what he's going to be going into spring training, that's just bad. That's just worse. Just tell him, hey, man, you're the starter. Go struggle with it. Every pitcher struggles with it. Keep starting, and you're going to be the starter next year. But going into the offseason, like not knowing what your role is, it sucks. It's not cool. It's not cool for him in his development and makes it seem that the White Sox really don't know what the hell they're doing.
Let me ask you about a guy in the same boat, Garrett Crochet. I've seen him back now, I think, for the past 2 weeks down there. And
is he in rehab? Great rehab.
Yeah, he's recovering Double-A, I think, with the Barons.
I'm sure he's
it looks like
down there.
He is, and it looks like he's got his velocity back. The slider, it looks like he still, needs a couple more weeks here to get that down more. But we still haven't heard yet what their thoughts are of where he's going to be. Like, we don't have a plan.
They're doing the opposite with him than with Kopech. They're developing him like a middle reliever. Okay. Letting fans hope that he's one day going to be a starter. But when are they going to pull the trigger? Right now would be a great time for him to start going long and saying, hey, we're going to prepare you next season to be a starting in the rotation and prepare yourself for that.
That's the thing, OJ's last fall in August, Hahn came out and said, our plan is for him to be a starter, right? And then in the spring, he gets banged up, but then he comes back with, like, I think 3 weeks into the season it was, and they said, our plan, we're going to, stretch him out multiple innings, but they kept going back and forth with it, with putting him in the bullpen, and, like, goes from 1 inning to 3 innings, like 2 or 3 innings. Like, they keep going back and forth.
We don't sacrifice wins for the development of our players, Gonzo.
Yeah.
I didn't say it. He did it.
I know.
That's what that means.
Like,
that's what that means. They're treating prospect players that are not proven, okay, to try to get 1 or 2 wins, to try to better the record when they're not even close to competing to anything, and hurting the development of these guys and probably can hinder them in the future. That's a situation. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you're going to have to go back and say, hey, by the way, Dylan Cease was almost a Cy Young under Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
Okay. When you see this, when you start talking about development of guys and where they were at, did Tony spend did how much time has between the Cats and Cooper time? Who's going to take the claim for that? And that's when you're going to start looking at those debates. But I really feel that White Sox don't have a plan. They really don't. They didn't have a plan under Rick Hahn. We know that. And right now it looks like they don't have a plan under Chris because they're just trying to figure it out. And their manager just goes out there and talks nonsense and thinks that we're all dumb. And we're going to believe it just because he uses perfect English and big words. Yeah. And he's full of it because he says one thing one day and says another day.
And I'll tell you right now, OJ, when Crochet was drafted, and we kind of brought this up a little bit last episode, like I really wanted to see him as a starter in that rotation because you saw how dominant he was in, what was that, 2020 with the A's when he was shutting them out. So dominant, and I just wish that they truly had a plan to develop him back into the rotation for the last 2 years.
So here's the difference, Gonzo.
Yeah.
If you're a prospect, okay, and your team needs you, Miguel Cabrera, Bobby Jenks, because your team's in the middle of a pennant race, Dontrell Willis, you are used any way your team deems you possibly a way to help them win. 2005 White Sox grab Bobby Jenks, put him in the closer role. Miguel Cabrera, they put him in left field because they needed his bat. Dontrell Willis gets thrown into the mix as a starter, any way, shape, or form. They were all in pennant races that led to winning World Series, and the development could take a hinder because you were going for the big one. What are the White Sox competing for? If the White Sox were right now, if Bobby Jenks was to be called right now on this team, he would probably get a shot to be a starter. Why? 3+ pitches, great stuff. Why wouldn't he get a shot to be a starter? The difference was the team that he came into, there was 6 legit starters because Brandon McCarthy was also on that team where you had 5 starters plus 1. So his stuff was to be moved to the pen, and he built a great career. So right now, the way the White Sox are there, I don't care what they tell us, they are not in a competitive window. They're not. I don't care how many times they tell us that they're in. They're not. So they need to go and do what's best for these guys and really develop them. Because if not, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be still talking about the same damn thing, just with different names. Because they won't be able to develop them.
Yeah, well, when it comes to Crochet starting 2024, I'm actually on the path now of just like Kopech, put him in the bullpen, let him build his arm
back up. Have a nasty bullpen. Yeah. Go find yourself some cheap starters that can maybe go 4 or 5 innings and ride the pen. And again, if that's going to be your philosophy, then let it be your philosophy. But don't like if you ask Grifol today, what do you think about long? Players going long. I think going long is the name of the game. Throwing 200 innings is extremely important. And he takes out a guy in the 3rd inning. Like he has no foundation on like what he's managing on and his staff. And right now, Chris Getz is coming into a situation where that's kind of like the culture. The culture, you know what the White Sox culture is right now? They don't have a culture. Their culture is not just bad. It's like one of mistrust. It's one of misguided, of confusion, of we say one thing, we do the other. That's what the culture is. The culture's like, oh, it's like a joke. It's like a running joke. Like, oh, Kopech's not going to be a starter. It's never going to be a bullpen guy. And you're like, he's going to be a bullpen guy in 2 weeks. Oh, so he'll like you go with the opposite. Like it's now become like a joke. And that's where they need to start building this. Instead of them looking for leadership and who's going to be the baseball leader, they need to figure out what their culture is on how they're going to manage their team. They just did it with poor Oscar Colas. Guy gets sent down with 2 weeks left. Did they look up his numbers for the last 7 days, the last 15 at bats? He was raking. The only reason they should have sent him down was, he didn't walk enough. He struck out 5 times, didn't walk any, but he got doubles, home runs, 4 hits, 3 runs in the last 15 at bats. I really don't understand why they send him down now. Should have done it a month ago.
Yeah, let's stay right there. So Oscar Colas got optioned to AAA Charlotte for the 2nd time this season. OJ, we heard it in the presser with Grifol. What he listed was the same thing, defensively, running the bases, hitting the cutoff. It's the same thing he said the first time back in May. Like, what is your staff doing to make these adjustments at the big league level to keep him there? Like, if you're like focusing on Colas, we've seen this whole team do the same shit worse than he is.
You've gave him the job out of spring training. You should have never given him the job if you couldn't have done those little things. You should have said, hey, man, Oscar's struggling. He's going to struggle till the end. Not only have you made him bunt, now you're sending him down. Good luck trying to move him for something. You just told Major League Baseball, we think this guy sucks. We just kept Thompson over this kid, okay? He was struggling. Most guys do, especially free swingers like him. We saw that it took Pantera some time. He's figured out this year on finding, let's be honest, man. It's Oscar Colas' first year. But again, Pedro being really hard on a first-year player. Whether it's Oscar Colas going to be a good runner. What's good running for Oscar Colas? He's a chubby right fielder. Defensively, you guys thought Oscar Colas was a Gold Glove defender? Excuse me? He might be a little bit better than Eloy. Maybe. Okay? His batting, he's not producing power. Yeah, no one else in the White Sox is either. You got guys making $25 million that got 5 home runs. So what's Oscar Colas done any wrong to the point that you have to get him out of the team with 2 weeks left to send him to AAA? If you want to talk about getting kicked in the nuts and a huge morale destructor, that kid's destroyed. He's embarrassed.
Yeah, last 7 days he was batting .267 with one home run, OPS of 800. Like,
did great. Play better than Lenny Sosa.
Yeah, I don't know why this decision comes out when there's so many other decisions that need to be made here with 2.5 weeks to go.
You're not losing game because of Colas. Let's just put it that way. And he needs to develop. Why? Because he is truly, truly, truly our first-year player.
And these are important reps that you're missing out on.
Yeah, and he's going to kill Triple. He's going to go down there and destroy AAA the last 2 weeks. He's going to destroy it because that's what he's been doing every single time. So his learning ability needs to happen at the big league level. But let's guess what? I do not sacrifice wins for the development of players. Sounds like Bruce Bochy with the San Francisco Giants in his three championship peak. It's like you lost your credibility to say anything about competitive baseball when you went under 15 games under 500. You better be developing or you should not be here. Yeah. Period.
No, OJ. Like I said, there's 2.5 weeks to go. The White Sox have Nick Nostrani, who they got. He was the 9th prospect by the Dodgers in that deal for Lance Lynn. You have Nostrani, Matthew Thompson, Christian Mania, and there's a 4th guy that not worth mentioning really, but these guys are Rule 5 eligible in December, and they need to be added to the 40-man this season. I'm actually shocked that we haven't seen Chris Getz bring some of these guys up to get them starts here, in the month of September. Like he was the director of player development, and he made these moves yet. Like, why is there hesitation, or like, why haven't we seen it yet?
So here's the confusion. And again, I love Chris as a person, but we're confused like on what he's going to do. If I was in charge of player development, okay, and I thought that my predecessors were tying my hands down on me calling up prospects and hindering the development of my players, okay, and that's why they got fired and I got kept. Why are you not moving these players that you developed into the big leagues in the last month of the season? If any time, do it now, Chris. You can run, bro. You have a free lane. You can fire Pedro. You can fire the staff. You can do anything you want with this team, and people are going to be like, wow, Chris is doing moves. Why are these guys not up? This is why it's like you want to make Kopech a bullpen guy, but you don't bring anybody to replace him. You want to make Crochet a bullpen person, but you're not going to want to take a spot. You trade 3 starters. Who are these guys? Are they going to use spring training as the full development of like who's going to be in the staff next year? They're going to go into spring training with 4 open spots? Really? That's what expansion teams do. Good luck. You're going to lose 90 games.
Yeah, so OJ, I gotta be completely honest here. Nostrani, I was harping on Nostrani in those trade packages at the deadline. Like, that was a pitching prospect from the Dodgers I wanted the Sox to deal for, and they did. That was the only guy that they dealt for that I was like really excited for. And I've seen some of his highlights down there in Charlotte. Well, I mean, when he was dealt here, he went to Birmingham, so I saw some highlights from Birmingham and then in Charlotte, and he's looking good. And he's a part of that that Dodgers system that, let's just be honest, like what we've seen from the Dodgers farm system and pitching this season has been really strong. They brought up Bobby Miller, and then they bring up Sheehan, and then right behind Sheehan was going to be Nostrani. But the Dodgers also brought up, his last name is Pepiot. I can't even pronounce it right. Yeah. And he's been looking solid too. So I feel good about us getting Nostrani, but we got to bring him up. You got to get him in the big leagues.
This is the part. He was an important piece for a team that gave up on a guy because they're in a pennant race and they have a lot of depth. But he is a guy that is in the curve to developing into a big league pitcher. The White Sox need to grab that player and continue his development to becoming a big league pitcher, just like they did with Dylan Cease. Just because you're a prospect, you cannot let that prospect just come in and just be like, oh, you're done working out, you're done. He's not a veteran pitcher. You're not trading for Roger Clemens at 43. Matt Scherzer, like, you're not trading for a Freddie Garcia or a Mark Burley in the middle of their careers. Like, I feel like the White Sox, this is like a John Danks started from the beginning. It's a young arm. You need to develop the young arms. If you're having success in the minor leagues, bring them up. Why? Double-A to the big leagues is a big jump, but you can do it, especially right now with the whole thing with the sticky ball in Double-A. Other GMs being concerned about the numbers and are the numbers legit because the sticky ball is not, helping or not helping, depending on how you see it. But why not bring him up? What happened if you bring him up and this guy figures it out? There are guys that have the talent to do that. What are you risking? No, I'm not talking about you bringing up Noah Schultz, who just got drafted a year and a half ago and is struggling with injuries. No, don't bring him up. But bring this guy up. He's healthy. What else is he going to do in AAA? What else? You bring him up right now is the opportunity to be able to start assessing for next year. Why wait till spring training and waste 4 months of development with these guys? Again, is it because he is so stubborn and says, I'm not sacrificing wins for development? You suck. You're going to lose anyways. Might as well lose with developing guys. Simple. Doesn't have to be a rocket scientist.
I totally understand that development is not linear. But then again, what I just said was the guys in his class, or not in his class, but the guys that were with him that were projected to go this season made it with the Dodgers to the big leagues, had success. And I really feel here that he's a prospect that can make that jump. But then again, like what we're saying here, OJ, is why not give him a shot here with these 2 weeks left to see what success he can have now? Because if you see that he does have that success here, then at least you know that he can for sure break camp and spring training. Absolutely. Potentially.
And here's the thing. Isn't there a big pitching guru guy, Ethan Katz?
Mm-hmm.
In the front office, they believe that he is a big guru. He's our guy. Wouldn't you want him to be around Ethan Katz as quickly as possible?
Yep.
Unless Ethan Katz is a twin brother or a clone, get him to the big leagues. Get him up here. Let's see what he has. Let's see what we have to work on. Here's the other part. Bring him up to see what he has to work on. Maybe there's something that he gets exposed to in the big leagues that he's going to have to fix. Yep. So why wait? Why wait? Why wait? Why wait? Especially with pitching, I believe that it's all about bullets, and you only have so many of them, and you better use them in the right league.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I really hope he gets brought up so we see what we got out of him, because that's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he's in your rotation starting off next season as your 4 or 5 in there. That's at least what I would want to see.
Especially if you traded for him. If you traded for a guy who's almost big league ready, that should be the plan.
Yeah.
Think, again, common sense. Don't have to be a guru.
And that's
a baseball genius.
That's why Jerry brought up to hire Chris Getz internally, because he's your internal guy that has seen this development.
Because they didn't want the timeline to go around. The reason that we didn't get the guy that went to the Mets, is because we didn't want to waste 6 months or a year to figure out the organization. But figuring it out doesn't mean sitting around and doing nothing about it. So I really hope that I really hope he has a plan. Mm-hmm. And he makes me look really, really bad right now. At the end. But the way that things are moving, they're moving way too slow. If I was next to him telling, hey, you gotta do this, I would tell him 2 things. Hey, move faster and tell your manager to shut the F up. They need to get Tim Anderson on the highlight, like he told Ozzy, shut the fuck up. The tweeter of Anderson, they need to tell their manager, hey, zip it. Like, don't get enough.
Yeah. Another guy, Christian Mania. He wasn't a guy you trade for, but he's a guy that's developed in your own farm system. Again, he started off in Double-A to begin this year, and he's right now at Triple-A, pitching well. It's another guy I want to see brought up, because I really think Nostrani and Mania, that might be your 4 or 5 next year. And I would love to see them, see what they have to work on here going into this offseason under your development plan for them, so that they're coming, and breaking spring training and the big league camp ready to go. Again, OJ, it's just frustrating because, like I said, I brought up earlier, you have 4 spots to fill out here, and you want to try to
spring training. They're going to talk about it. Merkin's going to write about it. Guffey's going to say, "Oh my God, Pedro Gridol, is doing yoga, stroking everybody. What a different, blah, all that stuff." And then they're going to come here and get their butts kicked in April because that guys have to figure it out. And they have to go figure it out struggling. Like, I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, I would be moving a lot faster.
I wanted to focus on this comment here by Don. He just posted it. Great question, Don. So, OJ, let's take a look at this because I want to propose something to you. It goes along with this. Could you see Colson starting at shortstop in 2024 and moving Timmy to second base?
I would. What has Tim Anderson done for the Chicago White Sox?
Mm-hmm. Because I know
that he's a respectable player, but if you think that Colson is the future, okay, Alexi Ramirez played second for a year, then came to short. If you think Colson's the future, and here's the other thing, you might sign Tim Anderson to play second base. Keep his bat in the lineup because I still think he has a lot to offer. Maybe it's an easier position for him. But yeah, I can see him starting there. I can see him starting at third. But I think that the shortstop could be something that you can consider. At some point, they got to decide what position he is, but he is a big guy. So figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, me personally,
I would consider it. I would really consider it because depending on what they're planning to do, if he is the future and he's really going to help on the offensive side, I would really consider it and keeping both of them in the lineup. Because I really think that Tim Anderson still has a lot of value to this lineup. If you take Tim Anderson away offensively and you don't replace it with somebody that just hits just as good as him, oh boy.
I still really think it'd be a smart decision to pick up that $14 million option. That still has strong. That has strong value. Like I know,
very strong value. And again, he's and his numbers offensively still carry weight on the team. Because if you don't bring, if his numbers are gone, your weak offense is going to look even weaker. It's going to be very, very weak. So you just can't go in and just throw somebody there just to throw somebody there. And let's be honest, Colson's going to be good, but you can't put the pressure on Colson to come in and hit like Tim Anderson right off the bat. And again, I'm thinking even with his below average season, I'm thinking Tim Anderson bounces back next year. Maybe not to batting champion Tim Anderson, but I'm thinking 280 at least. Tim Anderson, like his swing looks great. Him healthy with his ability, I think he's a 280, 290 hitter. He's a solid player. It's with a very good price tag on him. When he's not getting in trouble, I don't. Maybe the knock him out changes him a little bit, but I think he's a very solid good. I think he's a really good player.
And I believe it's a perfect position to bet on him and in his contract year, and even add that versatility at putting him at second base. And I know that Don in that question, he flip-flopped it, putting Timmy at short and Colson at second base.
Colson might be the future. So if you're not thinking about signing Tim long-term, you move him, give him a chance at second. Now teams who might trade for him might say, wow, not only are we getting a shortstop, but we might get a second baseman too. Kind of like what they did with Gene Segura in Miami. And because they knew he could play multiple positions, and now you can have options. If you put Colson at second to eventually switch him to short because you're moving Timmy, you're just taking one step away. Again, not rocket science. But are you lying to yourself thinking you're going to extend Timmy? That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Getz should have under his bed. Getz should have a little notebook like this where all his dreams live.
Yeah.
And he should have his lineup for the next 3 years.
And Colson's probably a better at shortstop right now to keep him there at short. Move Timmy over to he's the future. Yeah. So we saw what Timmy had his worst defensive year this year, not only on the offensive side, but he was like negative 12 defensively. So he had his worst year defensively.
And he has value. Maybe somebody offers you something in the offseason. I'll give you an example. Let's compare it to football. You got a team that's very competitive early in spring training. They lose their shortstop. Shortstop goes down. Value for Tim Anderson now just skyrockets because a team needs a shortstop that's going to be in the competitive window. You always need to be able to see what return you're going to get because you have to ask your question. Are you going to win the World Series? Or at this point, are you going to be 500? Or are you going to be even in the playoffs with Tim Anderson in the lineup the next 3 years? If you're extending him, yes. If you're not, I don't see Tim Anderson signing a 1-year deal to stay in Chicago. Like he's looking for a multi-year, let me stay here the rest of my career type of situation. The way that things are looking up for the White Sox right now, where they have their prospects up the middle, I doubt that that's Tim Anderson.
Yeah, no, if it's me, I'm not even considering for me, where the value is on Tim the trade would have to be like ridiculous for me to give him away right now, because I feel like I would solely bet on him next season, not trade him.
I think on everyone that had a bad year this year, I'm betting on Tim Anderson having a better 2024 than he did this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have better value going into next deadline.
Oh, yeah, he might blow up. His second half has been incredible. It hasn't been horrible. Second half has been decent. So I really think that there's value still in Tim Anderson. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would start him at second base next year, and Sosa and Rodriguez, they can battle it out for that backup infielder.
Elvis Andrus will probably be back.
You think so?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I get it. Like last year,
it's not ideal, but I would not be surprised. And who do you trade? Who goes to Kansas City for the Salvi trade? That's another one. I'm being serious. Is it Eloy?
No, yeah.
There's got to be at least two players. I think Eloy's one of them. Maybe Moncada needs money. I hope it's not Tim Anderson and Eloy. That's a very, very bad move.
Yeah. That's a gut punch if you trade Eloy while you also traded Berger, because that means that Colas will probably go to DH unless
or Salvi.
Yeah.
Salvi's one rape away from being the DH. But he'll be the same type of leader that Kansas City has right now.
And our luck is that Eloy blows up and Kansas City stays healthy.
I think that's a very risky move. Again, if you're trading someone for pure leadership skills and their team is worse than your team, probably not. You should trade for more than that. Yeah. And he's a great player, but he's in a really big contract, and he's a player that he's there because he won the World Series. But when you're building a team for the future, meaning the next 2-3 years, he's not your guy.
Yeah, and this whole thing goes back to last deadline. Like, I would have preferred to trade Eloy than Berger, and like now that we're
but no one wanted that because Berger has control, less money, and they thought that what Berger could do right now, he's doing better than Eloy, which is power.
And I really wondered.
Defense, Berger's better than Eloy defensively. Berger runs better than Eloy. I think Eloy's a better hitter, like knowledge of the zone and whatnot, but Berger has more pop today. I think Berger might have more natural pop. I think Jake Berger's a pop guy. Like, if he figures it out hitting contact, he will hit 30, 35 every single year.
Again, you said 35 home runs in the spring, and he's right there. He's at 32.
I said 35. I said he's going to hit more home runs than Andrew Vaughn. Just because I think Andrew Vaughn's more John Olerud. I think Andrew Vaughn can hit 35 doubles, and to me that's more realistic. He'll probably go deep, they'll probably leave the stadium because he'll play in a shoebox, but he's not a guy that's, if he tries to swing and miss to try to go deep, I think he messes up all his hitting style, and he starts striking out more, and it affects the overall picture. Berger can go 0 for 4. It doesn't matter. He's going to go deep in the next, 15 at-bats at some point.
Well, OJ, you've been right on accountability with Robert. You pretty much just called the shot for Berger hitting those 35 home runs. And you got another pick right this week in Moncada. And we are headed to our picks to click. All right, folks, you know the drill. It's this part of the segment where we're going to make our picks. OJ, you know this carousel all too well. Moncada is off the board.
What's the standings right now?
I got 7. Slav has 6. Jay has 5, and you got to 4. You went from 3 to 4.
How many weeks left?
2 weeks.
Okay. So you're hoping that at least I win and that Slav doesn't win. You're like watching the standings. You're like, I'm okay with Junior winning as long as the guys don't take my spot.
Exactly.
But then if you win, you can control your own destiny.
Yeah, I think it's 2. It could be 3 weeks.
Okay.
I gotta look to see how many games in October there is of the regular season.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Pantera, Luis Robert. I think 35 home runs, 73 RBIs. I really think that he's gonna try to go. Year 5, you're like, "Ooh, can I hit 40? Can I stay hot?" He's gonna be pitching. He's gonna be facing some easy pitching down the week. I think that favors him. I believe. So I'm gonna go with Pantera. Pantera's gonna give me my 5th win.
Yeah, there's only 2.5 weeks left, so I'm happy that you won this week and that you're going to go with Robert. You took that away from some people, so I have to worry less about Robert hurting me. Jay is up next. Jay says Lee or Moncada, so he's going to go with Lee since Moncada's off the board.
Corey Lee, okay.
Corey
Thank
Lee.
You.
Nike, I think I'm going to stick with, you know what? I'm going to go with Andrew Vaughn.
He's second on my list.
He's been hot lately. Normally I stay away from Vaughn because I like him. I don't want to jinx him. And Slav is going to go with TA once again.
I like Andrew Vaughn's pick. He's at 19, 72 RBIs. So he will be. He's not going into the end of the season kind of just like whatever. He's grinding till the end. Those stats mean future money for him.
And listen, if I get 1 victory out of 2 weeks to go, that means I take it.
You take it, yeah. You take it. Or as long as if I win, then Jay could be tied. Technically, I have to win 2 more in a row, so Jay to be last place.
Yeah, if you win the next 2 weeks, you tie Slav for second.
That's fine as long as Jay's last, and then you would winning it. He beat me this week in football. So
did he?
Yes, he did. I was in Cabo San Lucas. My roster was a little off. He got a little lucky there, but he got me.
Yeah, my team took a shit in all 4 leagues that I was in.
I wonder how many. Who had Rodgers as starting quarterback?
Jay.
That was probably a big hit. Whoever had him in the starting position.
Jay had him. That's how you beat him.
Yeah.
Because Jay just dropped him. All right, chat. Our picks are OJ is going with Robert. Jay is going Corey Lee. I'm going Andrew Vaughn. Slav is going TA. And the standings are, like I said, I got 7 picks. Slav has 6. Jay has 5 and OJ has 4. We got 2 weeks to go. This is going to be a close one, folks. And with that, we are going to go to shout-outs. OJ, I'll let you start it off. What do you got for shout-outs this week?
Man, shout out to my guy, Pantera. Hope he has a good week. But no, we're good. Let's go get him. Browns are in the playoffs this week. So first semifinals before the finals. So got to win 2 out of 3 this weekend.
Browns. Wait, well, you said what seed you got?
First seed. Got first place.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you got the bye.
We got the bye. Yes, I was a better GM than Rick Hahn in my men's team. Yes.
All right. Shout outs for me. Once again, I always I gotta shout out my girl. Soraya, always give me that support that I need.
Always.
Her car broke down, so that car's in a repair shop, so I had to drive her to class today. I gotta go pick her up here pretty soon, but I gotta give Soraya my shout out tonight. Besides her, I can't wait to have Slav and Jay back next week, so we can go into our all-time series at first base. I always miss not having them. Last but not least, that was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was the anniversary of 9/11. Gotta give that a little respect. Because I know the younger generations are forgetting, so it's always, I think, value to bring it up. Just for our country, the unity that we have to remind ourselves that we stand behind each other, and we must never forget what happened. Such a tough time for our country back then, but nowadays it's a little bit different, and it's kind of rightfully so that it should be more of ourselves going on unity. But besides that, that will be my shout outs of the week. And I'm going to give a little talk here about our fantasy league. So far, the winners for week 1 was Ray the Barber, Russ, Justin's uncle, Juan Montenegro. He won this past week, and Justin won. And the rest of us have been losers, Junior. But we'll bounce back in week 2.
We'll be bouncing back.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll be me and you will be making our calls this week. And with that will do it for episode 26. Everybody in the chat, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying and listening to us talk for the past 26 shows. And we'll be back next week. From myself, from OJ, this has been the Blackout Show presented by the Guillen Grid. Thanks for watching. Good night.